I grew up just north of Detroit, Michigan, in Macomb County, known as the home of the Reagan Democrats. My first vote for president was for Ronald Reagan. I thought that was going to be the best president I ever saw in my lifetime until Donald J. Trump came along. I have watched my entire life, I have watched plant after plant after plant in Detroit and in the metro Detroit area close. There are now plants sitting idle. There are now plants that are underutilized. And Donald Trump's policies are going to bring product back into those underutilized plants. There's going to be new investment. There's going to be new plants built. And the UAW members, and I brought 20 of them with me, they're sitting right over here. We support Donald Trump's policies on tariffs 100%. So, Mr. President, we can't thank you enough. And in 6 months or a year, we're going to begin to see the benefits. I can't wait to see what's happening 3 or 4 years down the road. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, fellas. Yeah, that's it.
Before we get into the tariff stuff, Shelley, I don't recall another president, at least in my lifetime, that has had so many regular, everyday Americans at the podium of the White House.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a man of the people, to put it, simply. He knows how to speak to people. Remember, even though he's a billionaire, he inherited some of his father's money, things like that, fine. But he actually built. He was there on the ground to build his properties. He's a New Yorker. I love New Yorkers, right? They know how to speak people. They're people. So it's no surprise. Donald Trump knows the heart and soul of America, which ultimately are the American people. Donald Trump, he doesn't consider himself above, or he doesn't consider himself higher than the American people. No, yes, he's the leader, the official leader, if you will, but he considers himself knowing the working man, the common man, if you want to call him that. But Donald Trump ultimately knows Americans because at his heart, at his soul, he is American. That's it.
Agreed.
Yeah. And Nicole, we see how media tries when they talk about President Trump, they say, oh, this billionaire businessman, he can't relate to everyday Americans.
Sure.
But then we see total opposite, don't we?
Of course. So, there are only maybe 2 circles I can think of where being a billionaire is a bad thing. That would be at the Democrat Party and, of course, maybe a socialist party of some sort. But the rest of us, bring on the money, right? Bring on the money. He's a successful man and he's wealthy and he acts like a successful, wealthy man. He's incredibly charming. For people who've had a chance to meet him, they come away going, one, he's much bigger than I thought he was stature-wise. He's tall, he's filled out. And he's incredibly charming. He's got that rich boy charm, to kind of put his hand on the small of your back and whisper stuff in your ear. That kind of charm. But he really is all American. When you think about what an American man is supposed to be, he has almost all of those traits. He's strong, he's loyal, he's industrious. Yep. What else do you need?
Yeah. And he is fighting for us, folks. Now, I got to be honest with you. I have not been too crazy about these tariffs, but I have been researching it, and more economists are coming out and saying this is actually going to be a good thing for us in the long run. So already we are seeing other countries, concede and lower their tariffs. Israel eliminated tariffs on U.S. imports ahead of today's announcement. Also, there were some other ones here. Of course, removing all tariffs on Vietnam and let me see. Over the past couple of months, Trump moved to implement other tariffs against China as well as Canada and Mexico. And then midnight tonight, we're going to see them all kick in. So there have been other countries that have, again, went ahead and lowered the tariffs before these other ones kick in tonight. But I mean, there are economists saying that the markets, because they don't know what to expect, are going to be a little chaotic over the next
Of course.
couple
Of
of days
course.
or weeks.
Change always does that, right? But the beautiful thing about it is, again, this is a Band-Aid moment for America. This is not something that's going to impact us long term negatively. There'll be a little pain in the beginning, like when you rip a Band-Aid off, there's a little bit of burn, but it's for the healing of the nation. And we need to level the playing field.
Exactly.
For too long, we've been upside down with these nations. That's why it's easy for them to fold. They've already made their money.
Well, they've made their money true to a degree, but look, the ultimate or the initial or the mindset of these many other countries is that the U.S. is supposed to just take it, so to speak, right? We look, they need us more than we need them in many ways. I'll say it's not, and again, these are called reciprocal, meaning give a little, take a little, win-win, if you will. It's not 90-10, or it's not all for me and none for thee. No, that's not what it is. Why should the USA pay all these other tariffs or fees or whatever on other goods that we import, and we basically charge zero? Well, you know what? It's called a free market, number one. It's called pay your keep. And if you want our business, or if you want your business to be imported into our country, then if you're going to charge us, we're going to charge you. Why is that? I don't understand why that's so wrong. And why is it assumed that we need to keep it the way it's always been?
Well, I'll tell you why. It's because we have become a nation of consumers. Of consumers of imported goods.
And
And
so
so
we don't build anything anymore.
So that's why
Manufacturing
exactly
was shipped overseas.
Exactly. So in a way, this is a good thing because it helps for us to start building manufacturing here in the United States. Also, it's a safety issue. Having our medication made in China and these other countries is not a good thing. Our aluminum, all of these goods that we really need to have, done here. It's a good thing for us to start putting it into effect here. And what happens is, if we start if we can meet the need, so if manufacturing gets in gear and kicks up, and is able to meet the need of the products, then it'll actually be a good thing for the U.S.
It'll be a great thing.
Yeah, it'll be a great thing. Right.
And take a look at what Trump did in his first term with the steel industry. People said, oh, steel is over. They should, quote unquote, learn to code. I don't know why they were so excited about people coding, right? But what he did is he leveled the playing field for the steel industry, and it created a ton of jobs. It drove revenue. It breathed life into that industry. And this is why the automakers are so very excited for this, because it's going to do this very same thing for them.
I thought about this earlier. I think also, what did you call it? Unintended consequence for the psyche of not just the world, but America's. Again, it gives us a little idea of how it's okay to negotiate.
Absolutely.
It's okay to compete fairly, if you will. I think that does something down to the quote unquote, the street sweeper. It's okay to compete. It's okay to negotiate. Maybe you can negotiate whatever, with your boss or your whatever the case may be. I think as a nation, we have become so, placid. Like you said, we're consumers, but we've gotten so used to just consuming, clicking on whatever, Temu or whatever it is on the internet at night. I'm guilty. I've done it too. So I'm not, blaming or not shaming anyone. But I think we've gotten so used to that we've really forgot how it is and what it's supposed to be like to compete, negotiate, fair and squarely.
Everyone was so surprised, so pleasant. The most shocking thing to me was, Bill's obviously a very big liberal, been very hard on the president, but he's donated a lot of money to other politicians. You've had Biden, Clinton, Obama, everybody. He had never been to the White House, and the president was so gracious. He took us up to the private residence. We saw the Gettysburg Address in the Lincoln bedroom, and I was like, "You've never been here, Bill?" And I was like, "How about this, President Trump? Extending this olive branch, and we talked about things we had in common, ending wokeness, securing the border." The president was asking him what he thought about policy, going on with Iran and Israel and things. It just it blew my mind. It was, I was, very, very proud.
Bob, do you
he's got
All right. Yeah. So I thought that was cool, especially in a time right now where we are so divided. Everyone with politics, the left is against the right is against the left. For them to come together and break bread, I thought it was pretty cool.
I think he's going to love most is the open, honest, transparency conversation with President Trump.
Yes.
Because I think that's what Bill Maher is going to really be, I don't know, surprised about. I'm just looking forward to that. Look, President Trump, again, is a man of the people. Many people have said they were surprised to hear that he's done X, all these nice things, whatever. First of all, this man is not walking evil, okay? Number one. Is he flawed? Absolutely. Aren't we all, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly. So that does not mean he's evil. There's a big difference. And all of you Puritans out there, get that straight. There's a difference between being flawed and evil, okay? And President Trump is not the latter.
Yeah.
I think Bill Maher was probably blown away by the grandeur of the White House. So, you see the White House on TV. You may have even been on that little free White House tour where they give little snacks or cookies or Hershey's Kisses or something when you come in the door. But to go to the west side, to the west wing of the White House is very different. Everything in the White House is made in America. Every single, with the exception of the Resolute desk. The Resolute desk, was a gift.
It was gift. It was one.
Yeah, it was a ship, right? So it was a part of the ship. I think it was from the UK. But everything else, the ashtrays, although there is no smoking, or aluminum from Pennsylvania, even the toilet paper, everything is from America. And everybody who works there is honored to work there. So the atmosphere is so very different than walking into any other office building. So I know that was kind of weighing heavy on him, and it is super special. Once the Secret Service, waves you in, you do feel kind of like, oh my gosh, and then to walk into the Oval, which is quite literally oval, the walls are curved, right? To stand there in front of that desk, in front of the most powerful man in the world, has got to be awe-inspiring. So Bill Maher probably had a fangirl moment for a little bit.
Kid Rock played the piano there. I thought that was just so sweet that he was playing the piano. And he looked, it wasn't, I'm going to say solemn. I'm saying solemn in a sense of serious. It wasn't that degree, but he looked so honored to be able to just play in the piano in the White House. And he was so into it. It was just a beautiful moment to see.
Yeah. Yeah.